let's talk a little Nuggets. It is draft day. As you mentioned, the Nuggets do have the 28th overall pick. All signs, if he's on the board, is pointing towards Denver selecting Dayton's big fella, Deron Holmes, to come in and be a backup big. We talked a little bit about him yesterday, watching some of his highlights, like that he's a shooter, can knock it down, is not afraid to step into a three and shoot it, finish it both hands, really solid in the post. So I like the name. Just don't know what he would contribute in the latter parts of the season because of Coach Michael Malone. So we'll get into that, and we'll dive deeper into that. But, Stoke, I wanted to have a conversation with you and Nuggets Nation about this roster, what it is now. And the way this thing is built moving forward, and I said this a couple of weeks ago, Michael Porter Jr., Aaron Gordon, Jamal Murray, and Nikola Jokic, that core four that are the starters right now for the Nuggets, it is impossible to keep that group together moving forward unless two of the four are willing to take a huge pay cut as to what they could get elsewhere around the National Basketball Association. So with that in mind, like three, maybe, like, you know, if it's Jamal and Joker and Aaron doesn't take or look for the most money, you might be able to keep three together. But for this conversation and the way the CBA is, let's only go two. You've got to pick two of the Nuggets core four to keep around as, let's call them Nuggets for life. Who are you picking? And Nuggets fans, I want to know your answers at 303-713-1043, RamosLaw.com text line. But Stoke, who are your two?
Well, I mean, we all know it's going to be Jokic, right?
He's one for all of us.
Yeah, for everyone. I mean, that's not even debatable, right? Kendrick Perkins wouldn't even debate that with us. So
right.
We're good there with him. And then now you pick one, Jamal, Michael Porter Jr., or Aaron Gordon. And, I mean, I have to go Jamal. I do, in this exercise.
Okay.
Right? But I'm not giving him a complete pass. But in this exercise that we're doing here, I'm saying Jamal Murray is the guy that you would keep. But I also am very open and receptive to possibly trading him if the deal is right and working to keep the other guys. But in this drill that we're doing, exercise that we're doing, I'm going to go Jokic and Murray as the two that I'm keeping. But see, now here we go. And I want to get your two, but it's like, okay, well, if we're going to have to move on from a Michael Porter Jr. or Aaron Gordon coming up here, then probably, 2 years, $30 million for Caldwell Pope. Okay.
It's possible.
You would want to do that.
Yes.
Right? So I don't know about their plans for the future when I'm telling you that, hey, I don't think we should re-sign Caldwell Pope if he does opt out, right? I think we ought to move on from him and work on keeping, three of these guys for another year. But if you're thinking as an organization, hey, we're probably only going to be able to keep two of the main four, then you probably do try to re-sign Caldwell Pope. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, 100%. I definitely do. And it's just that weird spot of they re-sign Caldwell Pope, that they get into all those tax aprons that we're talking about where you have to match salaries, you can't trade picks, and it becomes difficult to trade because you'd have to go in your case, so then that would be Aaron Gordon and Michael Porter Jr. still available, right?
Right.
Quotes around available just because of this exercise. Then you would have to find somebody that has basically signed the exact same contract that either Michael or Jamal has signed and make that a one-for-one swap.
Right.
And that's going to prove to be difficult.
Right, because you can't add up two guys in their contracts to equal $20 million.
Even if the money's right, it has to be one-for-one.
Exactly. Okay. So who are the two that you would keep?
So, Joker, as you said, that's first and foremost. He is untouchable. Don't even call. We'll hang up on you and block your number if you call about Nikola Jokic. But you know how I feel about Jamal. I'm not biggest Jamal guy. I think when he's right, he's a really good player. But the problem is he's not right enough for me. And he's certainly not right enough for me to give him a max deal. So I'm going Nikola Jokic and Aaron Gordon. Okay. I think, Aaron's still a little bit of a younger guy. I think he's more willing to sacrifice himself and some of his individual accolades for the greater good of the team than Jamal Murray is. Not that Jamal's not, but Aaron's willing to do it more and better at sacrificing some of those things. And like I said, at this point of their in NBA careers, Aaron Gordon's more mature. He understands this business and what his body means to this business and the business of basketball, coming in shape and treating this as the main thing and don't let anything else get in your way. I don't know that I can say that same thing about Jamal Murray. So I'm going Aaron Gordon and Nikola Jokic. I think Jamal's a better offensive player, but when you put everything down on a piece of paper, Aaron Gordon does much more on a basketball floor than Jamal Murray does.
Okay. And I totally understand that thought process there.
And look, I don't think your answer's wrong either.
Right, exactly.
I think it's pick what you prefer.
Yep. I think you're spot on there. So, and Jamal, obviously he needs to take that next step with his health, and his conditioning was lacking last year, and those types of things. And what is it looking like when you get a little bit older? Now, could you get more of a bargain with Aaron Gordon? You got to look at that also, like you were talking about. And all of a sudden you get a little bargain with him. Now you can spread that money out a little bit more for other guys. So it's going to be interesting to see, what the thought process is there and how they handle this with the new CBA. They signed a lot of these guys and all of these guys before the new CBA was signed.
Yeah.
And was coming into effect there. So I don't know, man. It's going to be interesting to see how this thing plays out. And, will you get a little bit of a hometown discount with a guy like Aaron Gordon? Okay. If you do, now you might be able to keep Michael Porter Jr. or, a Jamal Murray. Mm-hmm. But Porter Jr., here's the thing, too. He signed up, and with Jamal, you got 1 year left on his deal.
Yeah. And
he's going to be wanting, obviously a max contract. Are you in position to pay him that max contract? Do you try to get out ahead of this stuff a year before? And with a guy like Jamal, so that it makes a lot of sense there for Jamal to be your guy. I just think for me, his upside is so good, and when he is on, we don't have anyone that can score like him.
You're right.
He takes that pressure off of Jokic that no one else really does. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to see that go. But at the same time, got a contract coming up. He's not getting any younger. You're worried about the injury history there. And if you have a suitor out there that's willing to make a move for him, you certainly have to entertain it.
See, I had an NBA player tell me once that 90% of the league can give you 20 points a night. But of that 90%, only 50% want to give you 20 a night, because then that comes with expectations. And I feel like that's where Jamal lives. Like, Jamal can give you 25 a night, but never does, is not consistent, because then that comes with expectations. Now, he helped the team win a championship, so expectations are through the roof and will remain so as long as he and Nikola Jokic are on the roster. But
I don't know. I don't see Jamal as that guy that's, doesn't want the expectations, right? Doesn't want the ball night in and night out in big moments. Like, we saw him against the Lakers. I mean, he made 2, game-winning shots there. What does that series look like if it's not for those two buckets for Jamal? So, for me, from the outside looking in, I don't see Jamal as that guy that's doesn't want to be in the moment, doesn't want those expectations. Now, does he always deliver? That's certainly another question there. But like, he's always willing to take that last shot, and I think he embraces being that guy. You disagree?
No, you're right about the last shot. I guess I kind of thought about in my mind of those inconsistencies, and if that becomes more of a norm. Now, it hasn't been, but if it becomes more of a norm, do we even want him to take those last shots? Or is it just that's in his DNA?
I mean, that's just who he is for me. He could be having a bad game.
We've seen it.
Right, exactly. That's what happened against, in the Lakers series there, where it didn't look good, but when it mattered the most, he stepped up and delivered. And him and Jokic, they just have that chemistry. It's like, Manning, Stokley chemistry.
That's right.
It's just there,
yeah.
Right? And you just know where that guy's going to be. That's what those guys have. And so I like that, obviously. But again, sometimes it's not just that. Like, yeah, Jamal's a great player. Mm-hmm. But it's, can you fit all of this together moving forward? What does that look like? What do these puzzle pieces look like? And how are we going to – how do the Nuggets view this, not only next year, but for the next 3 years with this new CBA coming into effect? And that's what's going to be so interesting here. And we'll probably know here in the next 2 or 3 days, I would think.
Yeah, we should. A couple of texts reacting to it. A lot of folks, it's basically either your scenario or my scenario. We've got one text so far that says Joker MPJ, and that texter says Michael hasn't reached his full potential yet.
Yeah, well,
I don't know.
But, that's the problem here with this. Like, you just keep holding out on the potential, the potential, the potential. That gets you fired as a general manager and coach. So I got to see it. It's not his third year in the league.
No.
So what are we doing here? He is who he is, which is fine when he's on and with this team. But if you all of a sudden you think Michael Porter Jr. is going to take a big step forward, doing what? Like, where is that going to come from? All of a sudden it's just going to happen? No. We would have already seen it. It would have already happened.
You're right.
Michael Porter Jr. is Michael Porter Jr. That's who he's going to be. And so, which is fine. Like, sometimes it's a really good player. I just don't know the fit here for that, making that type of money, if it's worth it.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I'm agreeing with you on the potential of there is another level he can get to. He can dribble more. He can attack the rim. He can move without the basketball a little more. These are little things that he's shown in his game, and then it just falls away, goes away for some odd reason, and he doesn't continue to evolve and work on those things. So,
well, that's just not who he. That's just like, you're either like an explosive player, and your strength is getting to the rim, finishing at the rim, your ball handling, those types of things, right? Your explosiveness. That's not him, and it won't be him. Like, what is he going to do? Is he going to all of a sudden, put all this work into the offseason to change that? I think his size. And he's a shooter. He's an outside the shooter. He's not a perimeter player. He's not an in the paint player. Getting to the rim, creating his own shot. That's just not who he is. And like, for me, like, you can't change that all of a sudden at age. I don't know, what is he, 25, 26, 27? Like, he's not going to be able to work on that this offseason and become this great explosive perimeter player. I just don't see that as an option. He is who he is. And when he's on, look, that's fine. That's great. I mean, he can shoot it. And but it's he's not going to really add to his game and be this different player moving forward. And then with him, you still have to be concerned with the injury, the back.
You're right.
It's like, drop foot for a while. And then, the back issues that he's had. I mean, again, he's not getting any younger, right? You're just getting older. Usually your back doesn't, get all of a sudden healed.
Yeah.
But he's been healthy for the most part the last couple of years, which has been nice. But I think as an organization, you think, okay, we paid him this. He has had that back history of having a bad back. It's you got to look at that also.
Yeah. Hopefully he doesn't need another bacchiotomy, right?
Yeah.
I would actually.
That is.
It's a movie quote.
Oh, okay.
Some folks that saw the movie, they'll get it. My movie quotes are for the folks now.
Right, yeah.
It's right over your
right,
head.
yeah. You don't even – and sometimes I know them, and I know they're a movie quote, and I'm just
go right by it?
Yeah, I don't know what movie, though. That one – of course, I just fell right into that trap.
Yeah.
Well, what surgery was that? I never heard of that. Well, of course, from a damn movie.
From a movie.
You make me look like an idiot right there. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
That's not a hard thing to do.
See if I can do that.
That's what you
should
have said. That's what I gave you that. I teed it up for you. You whiffed on it.
Oh man.
I said you made me look like an idiot, and you could have just try that again. You made me look like an idiot,
That's
Josh.
not tough to do.
There you go.
Plenty more of that coming later.
You got me, man.
Yeah, nobody heard the other stuff.
Right.
That's what they're getting. I will say this, though, about Michael. You're right about, like, he's not going to be this explosive dunker, blocking shots at the rim, catching lobs, tomahawk jam with one hand. That's not him. But, I mean, is it out of line for me to go, hey, dribble the basketball, put the ball on the floor, shot fake one time, get the defender to fly by you, step back to where you want to shoot, or step inside and take a jump shot. He can add more to his game that doesn't have to be dunking and flying around the court.
And we've seen that from him, the pump fake, take a step back, go to the side, and then he pump fakes again, and then he's covered, then he's guarded, and it's like you should have just shot the shot to begin with, right? And it's like I've seen that too much. The shot fake, dribble here, dribble there, trying to find the better shot, and then all of a sudden, he's guarded there, and then he's passing the ball, and we got 2 seconds on the shot clock, and Jokic is shooting it up from 10 feet behind the three-point line, and he's making it.
Yeah,
so it's like, all right, that worked out well. But you're right. Just you're not going to see him be a dribbler of the basketball, an explosive dribbler, and going by guys. It's just not what he does. So We'll see. He's making a lot of money, though, and it's going to be interesting to see out of those guys how they view this thing. Do they think they can keep 3 and make this thing work? That's what they're going to try to do.
Of course.
So who will those 3 be if they're looking to keep 3? How does it play out? I mean, I'm sure they're looking at these contracts and what Jamal will make, what Michael Porter Jr. is making. What will Aaron Gordon – how many more years does Aaron Gordon have on his deal?
I actually think he and Jamal are both free agents at the same time.
So, you got to – look at your situation now, obviously, and what it looks like for 2024, 2025 basketball season, but also beyond that with those 2 guys becoming free agents and Michael making all the money that he's making. Well, Caldwell Pope's probably going to be opting out. How does that all fit? And to me, again, it's going to be fascinating to figure all that out and to see how they view this situation. Will they make a big move like we just saw last night with the Knicks? Whether it be trading 2 guys – or whether it be trading draft picks and trying to move up in the draft or, whatever the case may be. To me, it's, and we'll get some clues tonight, I believe.
We will. Are the Nuggets closer to an NBA championship at 10 p.m. Mountain Time tonight? That could be anything you're thinking. A draft pick, Deron Holmes, a trade on draft night. We find out that they've extended KCP. All of these things can happen here before 10 p.m. tonight. Are they better, or let's say, are they closer or further away to an NBA championship?
Well, I don't know about this guy that they're projected to pick from Dayton all that well, and what kind of impact he'll have this year if that's the route they go. I will say over the next few days, no, they're not, because I don't think they're going to make a big aggressive move here. I think we're going to probably watch KCP move on. I mean, why do we have Christian Brown and Peyton Watson?
They're supposed to be the next guy, yeah.
Eventually, you got to see what they can do. And, we keep talking about the salary cap and the aprons and all this junk that we're talking about. It's like, okay, that's why you drafted these guys. Now let's get them in the lineup, right? KCP was awesome for us.
Yeah.
Really good player. But, okay, now it's time to move on from the veteran guy and turn it over to the younger, cheaper guy and try to keep some of these other guys in play for this year. So, I mean, does that make them better? A Christian Brown in the starting lineup, a Peyton Watson in the starting lineup? I would, I hope it does, but I just don't know if that makes them better. And I don't think they're going to be very, very aggressive when it comes to trades. So I'd say a little bit, take a little step back.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean that you can't win a championship. I still love that starting lineup.
Of course.
Right?
Of course.
So, I mean, that's how I view it. How about you?
I think they're going to be closer. I really do. Even if it is just a pick of Deron Holmes as a 28th overall pick, because that's the big fella from Dayton. If that's who they end up landing, I mean, Stoke, you've talked about it, and you're absolutely right about the DeAndre Jordan situation. I can remember watching DeAndre Jordan play like 3 times this year off the top of my head, and all of them happened before the All-Star break.
Yeah.
Right?
And they were good.
And they were good moments. But so if you pick a big guy, and he's the backup, and he simply plays more than 3 times, that means Nikola Jokic is rested, even if it's just 1 time, that much more rested than he was a year ago. And I would really hope that, and this is what scares me, though, that Malone has learned a little bit of his own lesson, and he said it in their end-of-season presser. It might be on me for running some of those guys into the ground. He said it out loud. Let's hope that he's going to learn from that and uses some of the younger talent more often than not, at least more often than he did in 2023. So I think they're closer for some of these lessons that the coach learned from about himself.
Yeah, well, I think he did, and I think you will see that this year. But at the same time, like, you're not just going to roll out a guy that sucks, right? Just because we need to rest this guy. It's like, no, you haven't earned this. Yeah. Well, I guess maybe they did that there towards the end of the year. He did. Zeke Naji.
That's exactly what I thought.
He played him way too much last year.
And he's not good.
Right. So, like, you look at that situation and say, okay, you're playing Zeke Naji all these minutes. Why are you playing him those minutes? So, certainly, I don't know, man. You got to go out there if you're a young guy and earn those minutes. And hopefully our guy, what's his name from Dayton?
Deron Holmes.
Deron Holmes. If that's the pick, he profiles as a guy that could give Jokic some rest there. And we'll see. We'll see what it looks like moving forward. I hope you're right there. I hope we feel better about our situation in a week or two than we do right now.
I just, like I said, I have my reservations about Malone actually learning his lesson, but the fact that he said it out loud, that's like, okay, we now have evidence. Now we can hold you to that.
Yes.
So if we get into the middle of the season or the All-Star break and we're going, oh, the term you hate the most, well, this team certainly looks tired. I think there's some fair questions to be asked about Coach Michael Malone and his strategy about the 2024 Denver Nuggets.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to see that or hear that from him.
I hope not.
I think it was a culmination, obviously, of the long season before, and now you got a shortened off season, and he looked back and said, "Man, he talked about it at the All-Star break, but then you look back when the season's over and said, probably should have gave him more time off."